Hey guys, real quick before we get into the video, I wanted to mention if you like these videos and want to support what I'm doing, I've got these new tumbler cups and they're custom engraved with the Tac One Fab logo. They look excellent. Go to the website. They're not very expensive. They're 20-ounce tumbler cups. They have a slider lid. They'll keep your drink hot or cold, whatever you want. And it's an excellent way to support this channel and support the business. All right, let's get into the video.
All right, well, good morning. It is July 26th, and the only reason I mentioned the date is because it's been a while since I've posted up an update on the Striker 4 build. I've been distracted with another project, and I haven't worked on this one at all, but I'm gonna change that today and do some little things. I don't know how much I get done. I've only got the day, but here's where I'm at, just in review. We've got a full roller now. We've got bump stop can mounts done, bump stop mounts. She's on her own weight. I'm working on finishing up custom sway bar arms, and I've got to finish up the custom sway bar links. After that, some major things I still need to do are finish up welding up the motor mount support tubes and gussets. Whatever I can access from this angle. I don't really want to try to weld overhead from the bottom side. I'll wait until I break this thing down again and can flip the chassis over. After I get that done, then I might just go ahead and tackle cutting out this cross tube and welding in my 3-bolt flanges to make this center tube removable. I was holding off on cutting that until I get everything welded out up here, and everything is pretty much welded out. I have a winch mount plate in place. It's just sitting there, so I've got to finish that up. There's some fine tuning I've got to do yet on the plate. You can see here it's pretty gappy. I might need to put a little slight bend in the plate. I'll have to see what I need to do there. It's been a while since I've even looked at it or touched it. If I get as far as being able to cut this tube out, then I can go ahead and pull out the mock-up engine block, and then put the real engine in, and I can start working on exhaust. That's going to be quite a project because I'm going to have to do full custom exhaust. I've got stainless steel tubing here and a bunch of mandrel bends. The only thing I don't have is the proper filler rod for stainless, so I don't know if I can really even start on that yet without that filler rod. I guess I could probably tack weld things together just with regular MIG ER70S -2 or -6, but I don't know if that plays well with the 409 stainless filler rod or 309 stainless filler rod. So there's that. I've gotten a bunch of parts, and there are my seats. After I get exhaust sort of mocked up, then I'm going to start working on my seat placement. And then over here, I've got not only all the exhaust parts, but I have a gas pedal and a brake pedal. So I can start working on my brake pedal placement, gas pedal placement, master cylinders, etc. And I'm just kind of spewing out all kinds of information here, so fast forward if you don't want to hear this. The other thing I really do need to do is start thinking about limit straps and limit strap placement, where I want to put my brackets, the bolt-in limit straps, both front and rear. So that's something I need to work on as well. And I can custom cut those on the plasma table. I just got to figure out where I want to put them to where they're out of the way of everything. And then once I get the brackets welded in, then I can I can measure and have some custom straps made. So there's no shortage of things to do. It's just finding the continuity and the time to work on it and figure out what I want to prioritize. So I think what I'm going to do is, in this video, probably what you're going to see is me welding up these custom trailing arm, or not trailing arms, sway bar link arms, or sway bar arms. And I've already got this one done. This one's all welded up. This one here, is just tacked together, so I still need to finish welding that up. And I've just been doing it just short sections at a time, you know, like from here to here. And then I'll flip it over and do the opposing side and then let it cool and then weld up some more. So there's that. And then the sway bar arm links that I showed you, they're all ready to go. It's all cut and ready to go. It just needs to be tack welded together. But here's what I've got. I've got these little miniature heims. They're 1/2-inch heims, and they go on either end. And there's some things I ran into with this that I don't quite like, and I'll explain that here in a minute, what I kind of don't like about this setup. It has to do with the tubing ID and then the OD of these weld-in bungs. I'm not really keen on it, so I think I've come up with a solution for that. But anyway, that's where we're at. That's what I'm working on. I'm gonna get a little bit done on this thing today. I've got a pile of parts, and I've been, honestly, I was just sort of burned out on this thing because I've been going so hard and working on it every weekend, and just I got distracted. I had to start this other project, so I kind of came off of it. But now I'm kind of wanting to get back on here and do some intricate little things. And you just got to be in the right mood for that stuff. And you've got to be, above all, patient. You just got to have the patience for it, because it's really easy to say F it and do some half-ass shit. And obviously, I'm just not built like that. I can't do that. So I know, after having done several of these kind of things and working years on this stuff, that I just got to be in the right mood. Otherwise, I won't be happy with what I've done. So anyway, here we go. All right, so I told you I was going to explain what I have going on with these trailing arm links, and this is what I got going. So these are the weld-in bungs, and this one here is turned down, and I'm looking at it, and it's not, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's centered up. But this one here is turned down. The OD of it's turned down, so it will fit. This is 1 inch by 120 wall tubing, so it'll fit in here. However, this is the right hand one. This is the left hand one. And I have no way on my lathe to hold this, to hold this work and turn this shoulder down. The only way I can figure to do that is to buy the right size bolt, left hand threaded bolt, because this is the left hand one, and bolt it up and then hold it in the chuck on the lathe by the bolt. And I'm kind of just not willing to go through all that trouble. So what I've done was, on this opposite side, is I bored this tubing out so that it will fit this larger OD of this weld sleeve. And I still got to clean it up a little bit. On top of that, with these weld bungs, I believe, and I always do that, is to put a rosette weld or a plug weld, whatever you want to call it. And that just offers strength. But the reason why I say I'm not really keen on this is because I've bored this out. I've weakened this material by quite a bit by making it so much thinner. So what I'm going to do is, I've already got the one on the buggy that's already tacked up and in place. But what I think I'm going to do is, after I determine that these are the proper length and I get everything welded out, is I'm going to go ahead and sleeve the whole lot with this. And this is 1.25" by 120 wall tubing, and it will slide right in here with a little bit of finesse. I might have to bore the sleeve out just a tiny bit because it's not a true inside dimension, because it's a Hero tube with a welded seam on it. It's not DOM. But for this purpose, for the link, I think it's going to be plenty strong, and this is going to add the insurance I want for that link, because I thin this inner wall of the material down a little bit. So these links are going to be subject to a ton of stress with that sway bar. That sway bar is pretty thick, and there's quite a bit of leverage on the arms. So this would be the weakest link if I leave it this way, and I'm not, like I said, I'm just not, I don't feel good about that. The alternative to doing all this is to have a custom aluminum link made, and that costs money. This here is only costing me time, really, and then the material, which I already have on hand. So anyway, that's what I was sort of saying about that. And I think that's going to be my solution to what I think is a problem. I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe this is plenty strong. I don't know. But yeah. Okay. So that's that. I'm going to go ahead and get started on finish welding up this link arm or sway bar arm, and then we'll go from there.
Well, the reason I'm cutting this plate off right here, even though it's already tacked up, is I forgot to do this fusion weld, or some people call it an autogenous, I think, weld, between that broached section that was provided by Brannick and those side plates. So I'm taking care of that right now, and just getting that done real quick. I realized I forgot to do that, and it just bugged the crap out of me knowing that I hadn't done it. So I've done all the other ones that way, and here in a sec I'll put up a picture to show you what that fusion weld looks like right there. Here's a picture of that weld, and as you can tell, while I was welding, I was holding the filler rod, but I wasn't feeding rod into it. This is just a fusion weld where it welds the two pieces of metal together, just using itself as sort of the filler, I guess. I really don't know how to explain it better than that, but when you have a gap that's really tight, you can basically just heat up the two metals and they'll melt together with the TIG torch, which is really one of the coolest things about TIG, is being able to control the heat affected zone and really dial in where you want to weld that material together. So now I'm just going to be jumping around back and forth welding these cross tubes in place. I go from one side to the other and weld as much as I can around the diameter of the tubing without having to reposition. And I'll go back and forth and spread the heat out, and then weld the opposite side, flip it over, and just kind of rinse and repeat here.
All right, so I've got these cross tubes all welded in, and I started welding up the actual plate to this custom splined, what's the word I'm looking for, this DIY block that's got the splines broached into it. Yeah, custom splined or custom broached block. And so I've got plenty of heat in this right now, so I'm going to just let it cool off, and then I'll come back I'm going to start welding up these plate seams right here, and I'll jump around. These plate seams here, and then I'll jump around. And then I've got plug welds that I got to do, but that'll be at the very end. So that's a good start on that. While that's kind of cooling, I'm going to go over to the chassis and finish welding up those gussets on the motor mounts, the ones that I can access, and then we'll go from there. Here I'm just grinding out the tacks on this winch plate and just refitting that winch plate so that gap on the passenger side isn't quite as big, making sure everything's level right to left, and then making sure my angle, because it sits up, it's higher at the front and then lower at the back, just making sure the angle's right before I go ahead and start welding everything back in. And I go and grab the winch and double check again for fitment, make sure everything's looking good, and go to stitch welding this thing together. I've got reliefs cut in there, so I'm not welding the entire perimeter of the plate, but there'll be plenty of weld in there for strength for the winch plate itself, and it's just going to stiffen up the whole lower half of that front end of the car on the chassis there. All right, so I welded in what I could on these motor mount gussets right here. There's some cold starts, so it's not uniform, but I guarantee it'll hold. And then I got up here and made sure everything was cool with the winch plate, and I got it welded in. When I'm able to flip the chassis back over, I'll put some welds on the bottom too. But that is going to work for that. I'm going to wait for that to cool down. I didn't weld it solid because it doesn't need it, number one. Number two, I needed area for water to drain out. So that's why I put these reliefs in here. So on my other buggy, I inset the plate down below the tube center line a little bit, and it collects water in there because I forgot to put any drain holes in it. So that's the reason for this. This is going to be plenty strong. After this cools down, I might tackle this tube. We'll see. We'll see what I feel like. I am going to go back over to the TIG bench and start TIG welding out that sway bar arm. Here we go. Well, while that sway bar arm cools, I'm going to start laying out where I need to cut this tube. I think it's time to go ahead and tackle this. The first thing I need to do is take the shocks out, just so, or at least lean them out. Maybe I don't have to take them completely out, but at least lean them out so they're out of the way. And then I can go ahead and tackle laying out this tube. I haven't really decided whether or not I want to use a Sawzall or try to get in here with a cutoff wheel. If I get in here with a cutoff wheel, if I tape it first and get in here with a cutoff wheel, I think I have a better chance of getting the cut straight. I'm not sure how I want to do it yet, but it's kind of got me nerved up a little bit, because once I cut into this thing, there ain't no replacing it. So I just want to make sure I get it right. So, all right, here we go. All right, so this is what I got. I've got this traditional style tube clamp. In fact, this is what I was going to use here. But the problem is if you really look at the clamp, it takes up so much real estate from this point inward, from where it welds onto the tube right here where my thumb is, that it really will narrow up this opening. And unless I put it way back here, which is going to be really difficult to weld in, it's going to make the opening with these clamp ears sticking out, you know, if you picture this on either side, it's going to make this opening in here with the tube removed, it's going to make it really narrow. And I want it to be as wide as I can possibly get it, just for ease of pulling the engine in and out. I'm really trying to make this easier to work on. It's not that I'm going to be pulling it, hopefully not, pulling the engine in and out a lot. But when I do, I really want this to be as wide and open as I can get it, because the way the engine is sitting so far back in the chassis, I just need as much maneuverability room in here as I can get, because the engine's going to have to go down at an angle and then come underneath this dash bar tube or the window tube. So this is what I'm thinking, is I've cut these quite a while ago, and these are a 3-bolt flange that will sit in here like this on this tube on either side, obviously. And that gets me to where it, instead of that ear from this other style clamp sticking way out here, it's more back in here. And that saves me like 1 3/4 inches, almost 2 inches. So that's what I'm planning on doing. And then I can also cut this tube away from this junction and have more accessibility in here to weld this in here. I can cheat it this way a little more and still have the width that I need with this plate, rather than using this clamp style tube clamp. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to cheat my cut over to here a little bit, just so I have plenty of room in here to weld the plate to the face of this tube. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking. So here we go. All right, so I got this marked off. This is gonna be where I'm gonna cut, right here on this side of the tape. I use the old tape trick just as a guide to try to get the cut as straight as possible. Wrap the tube with tape. And I decided I'm gonna go ahead and use the cutoff wheel, the wheel of death here. I put the old safety handle on there and I got the safety guard on there. What I'll probably end up doing is finishing off the cut with the Sawzall, just because when I get down to the end of the cut, I don't want the tube to pinch the blade and the blade to break and end up sending shrapnel everywhere or whatever might happen. I'm hoping that the tube doesn't pinch inward, because if it does, that means there's tension in the chassis, and we're just gonna have to see what happens here. But I think if I can get the cut started with this, I can finish it off with the Sawzall. The problem with using the Sawzall is because of the way these tubes angle in this way and then back this way, I have no way to get the Sawzall in straight up and down this way. So I'd have to come at it vertically and cut it this way. So I just want to get as much of it cut with this cutoff wheel, just because I have more control over getting a straight cut, and then finish it off with the Sawzall. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how this goes. So here we go. All right, well, ran into a little bit of an issue, and that being I couldn't find my Sawzall to finish it off. So I went ahead and used the wheel of death, and it'll be interesting to see what the time-lapse video caught, but it did exactly what I thought it would do. See, that's why I had the guard on there. That's why I was wearing all the PPE, the face shield. That sucker jumped, and that's why I had a hold of that handle. I think I had a hold of that handle, because when that tube decided to break free, and I'm stupid, I should have freaking stopped when I felt it getting really loose and just wiggled it out by hand, but I didn't. And so when you don't have a guard on there, there's more chance of that chunk ending up somewhere impaled in your body. And luckily, the guard did its thing, I think. And I had a face shield on. I don't know where that thing ended up, but I'm not bleeding, so all is well. Anyway, so now we can go ahead and square these cuts up with the flap disc and start figuring out how to, it didn't move hardly at all when I cut it, so I think we're okay. But anyway, here we go. All right, so I got this cross tube that I was going to use for that I cut out from the chassis, and I want to set these up to where they're oriented, not only somewhat offset in the tube, but I also want to set them up to where they're clocked exactly the same on both sides. And so the less of this flange that sticks up, the better, just because the hood line is going over the top of this tube. So I got these chamfered and beveled, and what I need to do now is just find the center of the tube. And I got this little jig that I 3D printed, and I'm going to clamp the tube down. I'm going to use this jig to find the center, or to mark the center of the tube. Now what I can do is measure between the bolt holes on these flanges, find center, and then draw a 90-degree straight up from center. And it doesn't have to be 100% on, but I just want to make sure these are clocked the same on both ends. And since I'm over here at the TIG bench, I'll just do a little tack with the TIG welder to tack them on, and then I'll take it over to the buggy and set it up from there. All right, so we got our flanges tacked onto the tube here, and I got my other flanges that are going to be welded to the chassis side, bolted on. We'll go slip this in and see how far my measurements are. Hopefully my measurements are good. Might have to do a little fine tuning, but I want it to fit in there tight. So all right, well, we're gonna wrap this video up. Doesn't seem like I got much done today, but I actually did get quite a bit done. I was stressed out about cutting that tube out of the buggy. I got this sway bar arm just about welded up. I still got some more to do, but I've been trying to take my time and not put too much heat into it, which is something I'm very well known for. Then I got these flanges in here for the removable tube right here. I got these all welded up. I went ahead and just finished these out with the TIG machine just because I was over there quite a bit today. So this, I'm gonna take a little bit more tuning, but it goes in there pretty easy. And that's gonna be perfect for what I need. Like I said, I've got this kind of on the top part, got it cleaned up because that's gonna be, you know, a high spot for the hood to go over. So get that radius cleaned up on here too, so that hood has a nice level spot for it to pull over. And I'm much happier with this setup than those standard traditional tube clamps, just because they take up so much more space in here. So I think that's going to work really good. After I get that all finished up, then I can pull this mock-up engine out and put the new one in, or put the actual engine in. It's all rebuilt and ready to go. And I can start working on building exhaust and start working on interior stuff. So lots more to do, but one piece at a time. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.